right, blessings, everyone. Welcome back to Congregation Rehoboth. We thank you for tuning in, and we're going to continue from last Shabbat and Tuesday night TNT, Tuesday night teaching. We dealt with in this series. We've been, you know what? Does anyone know how long we've been in this series? I think we've been in this series for at least, I would say, since the beginning of November. It's been a long time. It doesn't feel like it, but when you think about, actually, could be the end of October that we've been trekking in this series entitled The Torah Family Project. And we've been dealing with this topic of recovering the biblical function of the family, and recovering, we have to recover it. And we gave so many different reasons in prior lessons about how it's been lost. We talked about captivity. We talked about Willie Lynch. We talked about, disobedience, just good old-fashioned disobedience, refusal to do what Yah says. And we've been dealing with so many different issues that come from our families not being designed the way Yah intended them to be designed, for whatever reasons. The mother, I was raised by a single mother. My father passed, but women, for whatever reasons, whether it was a husband passing, whether it was a husband just dead beat, whether it was a husband that was dead broke, whether it was a husband that was just absent emotionally, mentally, or actually physically, our women have had to assume positions, and those positions are not the natural positions that Yah has for our women to function within a family setting. And so we've lost the function of the biblical family, and we've had to pick up the pieces, and we've just had to put our families back together one piece at a time. And if it had not been for the women, my goodness, if it had not been for our women who have, our Hebrew women who have suffered so many different things. I'm reminded of a movie I saw. I'm reminded of a movie called Fences. How many people have seen Fences with Denzel Washington and Viola Davis? And I'm reminded of a monologue that those two individuals had. And I remember she said, or Troy, his character's name was Troy. And he said that, I've been standing on first base for 15 years and I ain't moved yet. And then Viola, man, this powerful monologue. She says, well, I've been standing here for 15 years with you. And so our women, watch this, our women have not been able to say that. Our women have been able to say, I've been standing here for 15 years by myself, handling everything from raising the children, making sure there's food on the table, a roof over their head, grades, clothing, healthcare, emotional needs, and support, mental needs and support, making sure that, man, our children have fun, making sure that they try to have a childhood that that they could buffer them from, the different kinds of setbacks that our women have had to face. And so we're thankful, man. I'm gonna tell you right now, we should definitely commend our mothers, our grandmothers, our aunts, women who have had to step up and manage chaos. Yeah, they've had to manage chaos, and we're grateful for our women. And they've had to, like I said, they've had to assume these roles that were not designed for them. And I am a result. Many of you are a result of a single woman that said, I refuse to give up. I refuse to lay down. I refuse to bow down. I refuse to allow the enemy to just have my family. And so I'm thankful. But I want to get back to, I really want to get back to the biblical function, the biblical design, the prototype of how Yah designed the family. And so here we are in this series, man. We're in this is part 8 of usurping the authority. We've dealt with so many different topics in this lesson, guys, that this usurping the authority, though, is the one that I believe is the biggest issue, because many women have had to assume an authoritative position within the family. And so we find ourselves in a position that we got to make some corrections. We got to say, look, there is a husband there. You know what I'm reminded of? I'm reminded of Ruth and Boaz. I'm reminded of Ruth and Boaz. That, and here, the way I'm reminded of Ruth and Boaz is the dilemma. I'm reminded about the dilemma or the problem that many husbands and wives have, where men are saying, I just wish I had a woman like Ruth that will say, whatever you want, I'll do it. But then the women are like, well, man, I wish I had a husband like Boaz that would be a leader, that would be responsible, that would take care of his business, that would not make excuses. Come on and go with me here. And so we're in a dilemma. We're in a dilemma. When you have a man like Boaz and you have a woman like Ruth, we've got to work it out to where we say, you know what? I'm going to, individually, I'm going to ensure that this family can say this: as for me and my house, we're going to serve the Lord. Joshua 24:15. We're going to do that. We've got to decide today. We got to decide now that we're going to be a reflection of the biblical family. And so on Tuesday, you remember I was supposed to deal with the mother's or the woman's original, I should say the woman's original authority. Actually, I should say the mother's original authority, because every girl should have motherly qualities, whether they get married or not. Come on and go with me. You should have whether you have children or not of your own, you should have a motherly authority and dynamic about you. There should be qualities, whether you have a husband or children or not, that you should have wifely qualities. Wifely, is that a word? You should have qualities of a wife. You should have qualities of a mother, whether or not you ever get married or have children. And so, you know, we are, as the older women, the scripture says, should teach the younger women how to be mothers, how to be wives and mothers. And so this is the goal. That is why, even if you don't have children, if you don't have a wife or husband, excuse me, that you're one of your roles as an older woman, as a pillar in our community. Your role, your biblical function is to teach the younger women how to be mothers and wives. And so I think Brother Mark asked an excellent question last time, that every single girl should be taught how to become a wife, a biblical wife, and a biblical mother. And so that's what we left off with on last Shabbat. And then I told you I was going to come back on Tuesday and deal with the mother's authority originated in Eve at creation, not at the fall. And so Tuesday, can anyone remember what we talked about Tuesday? Because we jumped right into the position and the role of Eve from a Hebrew perspective. Does anyone remember the concept that we dealt with on Tuesday? I know this is not Bible study. It is Bible study, but it's not like our Tuesday night teaching. Because once I go in, guys, I'm not going to be asking any more questions. I'm just going to preach and teach. But I do want to make sure that we're on the same page before we take off. So does anyone remember the concept we dealt with on Tuesday? It was from Genesis 2:18. I can give you a hand.
Adam needed an Ezer.
Come on, brother. Yes, sir. Now we talked about Adam needing an Ezer, absolutely. And Ezer, if you turn your Bible to Genesis chapter 2:18, it's going to say this: and Adam gave names to all the cattle and the fowl of the air and to every beast of the field. But for Adam, there was found no helpmeet for him. And what did we say an Ezer meant? What did we say a helpmeet meant? Does a helpmeet mean that, you know, she waits on the man, the husband's every beck and call? Did we say that? There's nothing wrong with that, but is that her only? Look, if you want to do that as a wife to your husband, if your husband is good enough to you, if he is a good man and treats you like the queen you are, why not? But that's not the only thing we said. What did we say from a Hebrew perspective? What was the Ezer's main role in a marriage?
Helpmate. Main role is helpmate.
Oh yes, to be a helpmate, to be assistance. Remember we talked about assisting the husband?
Time of distress.
Absolutely, sister. Because now, what does this distress come from? This distress it comes from the husband striving and fighting to follow the instructions of Yah. Now, contextually, in Genesis 2, Yah had just gave Adam instructions: not you can eat of every tree of the field, except for the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And so as Adam was in the process of walking out the instructions and the purpose that he was created for, Eve was created to come alongside him as the Ezer, as his helpmate, to help walk out those instructions with him. And so we talked about the Ezer being so important because she was completely different from the animals. And many people will compare us to animals and say we're just like animals and there's no difference. But I beg to differ, because biblically we are, and especially our women. And we're going to see this later, this concept that women should be treated. You know, some men treat their dogs better than they treat their women, their wives. Come on and go with me here, and vice versa. Some women treat their dogs better than they treat their husbands. They show their dogs more affection. They show their dogs more love. I even know some people who kiss the dog in the mouth, but won't give a husband a peck in front of folk. Won't give a wife a peck in front of folk. Listen, this is blasphemy to me. You are completely different from any animal that Yah has made because of one thing. He's given us the nishma. He's given us the nishma. He's given us his spirit, the ruach. And that's what we talked about last week. We said that the Ezer, the helpmeet, the wife who is married to a godly man who is following the instructions of Yah, her role, her main, listen carefully, her main role, biblically speaking, is to assist the husband in following the instructions of Yah. All right. And when he is in distress, as Sister Elaine said, when he is in distress of following those instructions, she, because she has the nishma, because she has this quality about her that causes her to be not just a deep thinker, but a deep prayer, someone who can meditate on the word, someone who can hide the word in their hearts, and they can see their husband when he is in need of prayer and support, to give him that support and not bash him, but bring him to a place where he can come back to his purpose. And so that takes the kind of skill and spiritual quality that does not require you just to cook for him. I want to go with me here. That does not require you simply to just clean up behind him. But it causes you to take a higher role that's, watch this now, that's even higher than you being the CEO of a Fortune 500 company. Come on and go with me here. You got women who are presidents of Fortune 500 companies, but can't support their husbands, cannot support the work or helping their husbands follow the instructions of Yah. And I declare this, that it is, for a woman to be able to help a husband follow the instructions of Yah is probably, I would say, is the most important role on earth. I will stake my claim there, and I will defend that. And so that does not mean, though, that a woman can't do both. That does not mean that a woman cannot exceed in a career. That does not mean that. But what that means, though, is in the eyes of Yah, being the kind of Ezer that Eve was is more important than being a Fortune 500 company president. All right. And so we've established that last week. And so I want to continue to deal with what is making this woman that was brought to Adam so special and important, and possessing the authority that women have. All right. And so today we're going to continue, and I want you to go to Genesis chapter 2 and verse 22, because this right here, guys, is I believe, in addition to the nishma, we've got to look at some things about women, that what Yah did with women, he didn't do with men. Oh my goodness. I'm going to show you right here. The things that Yah did when he created the woman, he did not do when he created men. And so there is the way he put his hands on woman. Listen, it is completely different and deserves respect from men. Adam had to respect the fact that the way he created Eve, the way that he created Eve was, I'm just going to say, it was amazing. It was amazing. And we're going to get into what this difference is, because I want to show you Genesis 2 and 22. And so let me go to the context too, because I want to read down to it. I don't want to just read the verse. So Genesis 2 and 22. But let's start in let's start in verse 20, because that's where we left off last week. But let's start here in verse 20. Genesis 2, chapter 20. I hope you guys are writing these verses down. I hope you guys are following. And also, if you would like a copy of the lesson to kind of go over it, test it, compare it to, what you're thinking, by all means, text me, let me know. I will definitely shoot it right over to you. But Genesis chapter 2, verse 20 says this, and Adam gave names, we already read that, to all the cattle and all the fowl of the air and every beast of the field. But Adam, there was found no helpmeet for him. We talked about what a helpmeet was last week. Verse 21, and the Lord God, Yah, caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam. And he slept, and he took one of his ribs and closed up the flesh instead thereof. Verse 22, and the rib, watch this, and the rib which the Lord Yah had taken from man. Highlight this, guys. I want you to write this word down, highlight it, put it in the memories, your memory banks, hang it on the lines of your mind, and then let the Holy Ghost, the Ruach, blow on this, because this is super important. The Lord God took from man this rib, and then the word is made he a woman. That word made is completely different than the word in Genesis 1, where he created. Come on and go with me here. Now, people who are reading in the English will say, oh, yeah, see, it's the same thing. He made a woman, he made man. See, this is where our study, guys, comes into play. And so when he says he made he a woman, and then the other key word is and brought her unto the man. Made and brought. I want you guys to realize that not only does a woman have the nishma, but this word made in the Hebrew is vayi ben, and the root word is bana. Now, if you took Hebrew with Brother David, I remember this word from our class, and this word bana means to build. So he didn't just create woman out of the dust, but he built her. He built woman, and listen, guys, this is completely different than the word created. And excuse me, I want you to realize how important this word build is. Now, it's the word build here, or sorry, made, which is bana, which means to build. This word is very powerful. It's used over 376 times in the Hebrew text, the Torah, the Tanakh, used over 376 times. Very, very powerful. And it's sort of like when the Lord said he built Eve. I want you to think about how well, we could just use an example of how Noah in Genesis chapter 8, how he built an altar unto the Lord. There was a sacredness about how Yah made woman. And it's similar to how Noah built this altar for worship and for sacrifice, to connect with Yah. And so this is powerful, guys, because when he says that he built Eve, he's saying that when he made Eve, he made her so that Adam would be able to connect on a spiritual level, number one, first. And so this, this is very interesting too. I want you to think back, if you're married, how did you connect with your husband? How did your husband connect with you? Spiritually. Was the spiritual connection there first? Because that's what this word built. When he built Eve, when he made Eve, he built her in such a way so it was for the purpose that the husband was to be able to connect spiritually first with her. And see, this is very important, because many women today, guys, and you got ladies, many women pay more attention to the physical than they do the spiritual. And so so if there should be young men I pray that there are young men on this line listening right now, because You're getting to the age of pubescence. You've hit it, and all these things are waking up in you. Your body smells different. Your feet are funky now. Your hair is more nappier. You're ashier. And so you're in a stage of growing into a man. You're not a man yet. Your body is letting you know, get ready. It's not letting you know to take action. It's letting you know, get ready. And so what you should be, if you're a young man, I wish I had a spiritual man, that followed the instructions of Yah in my life when I was 12, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Yes, you are not to take action from this thing that is happening to you, this maturity process. But what you are to do is get ready. Now, how do you get ready? You get ready spiritually, because your body and your flesh is going to tell you one thing, and the scriptures are going to tell you something different. And you've got to force. Paul said you got to beat your body into submission to the instructions of Yah. If not, you're going to fool around and make your father a grandfather. You're going to fool around and make your mother a grandmother before it's due time. And so this is how you are to connect with a woman. First, you are to connect with her spiritually. Why? Because she was built that way. She was built to be able to connect to spiritually, emotionally, and mentally. This is exactly the word that's used when Noah built an altar unto the Lord. And so another, I just want to give you a full understanding of this word, guys, because it's super important that when you begin connecting with a woman, even if you're not a teenager. I met my wife when I was 52. 50. Well, no, a long time ago. Anyway, but the way we connected, it was not physically. It was not physically first. It was definitely spiritually. And so I want to say this, that women have a quality about them that is not only does she have the nishma, which is a deep thinker, but you have to be able to connect spiritually on a deeper level than just simply reading a few verses. You've got to find out, guys, when you're dealing with an Eve kind of woman, you've got to find out in other words, what does she bring to the table spiritually? Oh my goodness. See, now I can get back to my example about Ruth. Because what she brought to the table spiritually, you know what? As a matter of fact, let's go there. Let's go. And this is actually in my lesson a little bit later, when we talk about the authority and where he talks about, ruling over. I think it's in Genesis 3 where it says her desire will be for him, but he will rule over you. And so I'm going to get to it later again, but I'm going to prime it right now. And so let's go to Ruth, the book of Ruth. And I want you to go to chapter 3. Ruth, chapter 3. And I believe, yes, it's the very first few verses here. Let me read it. Ruth, chapter 3. So this is about Boaz redeeming Ruth. And so we're going to get into a little bit about what he did when he redeemed her, but I want to pull out something else. I want to talk about something else. Ruth chapter 3, because we're talking about how woman was made. And the number one key principle that, guys, we have to understand is, and women, you should understand this about you, is that the way you were created was you were designed to be approached spiritually first. See, okay, I'll get into that. Ruth chapter 3, verse 1 says, Then Naomi, her mother-in-law, said unto her, My daughter. Notice how she calls her my daughter. She doesn't say daughter-in-law. I love that. But they did call her mother-in-law here. But shall I not see She says, shall I not seek rest for thee? Look at the care and concern. Oh my goodness. If the look, man, why is it that mother-in-laws and daughters can't get along? I just, it doesn't make sense to me. What's going on with that? Can someone shed some insight? Because I'm not a mother or a daughter-in-law, and so I just don't get the disconnect with some mothers and daughter-in-laws. But this verse says, then Naomi, her mother-in-law, said to her daughter, shall I not seek rest for thee, that it may be well with you? The mother-in-law was very concerned. In other words, she treated Ruth like a daughter. And I want to speak to the women who are in these positions of mother and daughter-in-law. Listen, mothers, you got to begin treating the daughter. You've got to begin treating these women like, number one, they're mature women that should be cared for and concerned like a daughter, not a little girl, but a daughter. And this is exactly what Naomi did with Ruth, verse 2. And now is not Boaz our kindred, with whose maidens thou wast? Behold, he winnoweth barley tonight in the threshing floor. Then it says this in verse 3, wash thyself therefore, and anoint thee, and put thy raiment upon thee, and get thee down to the floor. She said, get down, but make not thyself known unto the man until he shall have done eating and drinking. Verse 4, and it shall be when he lieth down that thou, now watch this, this is a cultural practice that it's not dealing with dating. Please listen. This is a cultural, what's about to happen in this verse is a cultural practice that is showing not Ruth and Boaz in a dating situation, and I can definitely talk about that, but it's showing the attraction that Ruth and Boaz had for each other. Verse 4, it says, and it shall be when he lieth down that thou shalt mark the place where he shall lie, and thou shalt go in, and then watch this, uncover his feet, and lay thee down, and he will, and he will tell thee what thou shalt do. But verse 5 says this, and she said unto her, all that he saith unto me, I will do. My goodness. My goodness. Listen, when it talks about all that he says unto thee, I will do, let me say this. And I said this earlier, the kind of man that Boaz was, he was the kind of man, from Yah's perspective, that was the spiritual leader, not just for his family, but in the community. If you think about the things that Boaz did, where he instructed his workers he was following the Torah. He instructed his workers to leave a little bit on the edges. Don't gather in the fruit, the harvest on the edges. And in other words, he was following the instructions in Scripture. And so this was the type of man Boaz was. Not only was he a godly man in the home, but even in the community, he was a godly man. Even on his job, he was a godly man. He followed the instructions. And so this is the kind of man. This is the kind of man that will be able to connect with women on a level that is spiritual. And this is exactly the example that I wanted to use, because it shows how Ruth was created, and every woman for that matter is created. They are, first of all, to be connected to are connected with on a spiritual level first. Now, I said this before, but I want to ask you guys a question. Think back to how you connected with your husband. And I want you to think, was it really on a spiritual level first? I want you to think back, because this could be one of the issues why the divorce rate is so high. Because think about it. I want you to think about dating, because everybody is trying to say, well, what's wrong with dating? I want you to think about dating. How many people have you dated? And what did that teach you? Dating teaches you how to break up with people. And so Boaz did not date Ruth. But you know what they did? They got to know each other in a group setting. Oh, come on and go with me here. You know this is biblical. Well, what was the group setting? It was the harvest. They were working with a group of people. It was the barley harvest, as a matter of fact. Where, as a matter of fact, if you go to, I think it was Ruth, and I think it was the chapter before, that I think it was the maidens of Boaz, it talks about, that were fasting, and they were gleaning the barley harvest and the wheat harvest, and they were all working together in chapter 2 of Ruth. And so this is how Boaz got to know each other, not in a one-on-one dating situation, but in a group. Can I just say this? The best way to find out what kind of person your mate, your future mate is to watch them in a group setting. It's to watch how they interact with others. It's to watch how their true personality comes out in others. Get to know a person. Man, I wish someone would have told me this. But get to know a person mainly in a setting that is within a group. And for those of you young men and young girls who are on the line, maybe listening later, listen, your friends are going to be telling you that they went out with this chick, that they're doing this with this chick, and you could see it, that they went over to their house when the parents wasn't home, and you know, they were on the couch and doing all these things. Let me say this, that's not spiritual. That is not the way. Listen, if you are a follower of Yah, see here it is right here. I'm gonna give you a good example. If you are truly a follower of Yah, you will not get to know a woman according to her flesh first, but you will get to know her according to her spiritual side. And so now you have a choice to make. Are you going to be on the Lord's side, or are you going to be on the world side? Are you going to follow the dictates of the world and try to get to know a person according to their flesh first? Or are you going to be on the Lord's side and get to know a woman according to the spiritual aspect? And because that's exactly how she was created. And so I want to deal with this a little bit later on, but right now, the way that Eve was made, that word bana, is that she was built for spiritual connection. And one other thing about being built, do you know what this word built means also? This is so powerful. It also means not just to build something like Noah built an altar, but it also means to build a family. Goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh wow. This is powerful here. You remember Sarai and Abraham? And I think it's Genesis 16. And is it Genesis 16? Give me a sec here. I think it's actually, it's in Genesis chapter 30. Yeah, Genesis 30. You remember when Jacob wanted Rachel. You guys remember that? He wanted Rachel. But who did he get instead of Rachel first?
Yeah. Rebecca. Leah.
Say it again.
Is that Leah?
Wait a minute, two people are talking at the same time. Well, I want to read this. Let me read this in Genesis chapter 30. I want to show you this about how Eve was created, not just to be approached or connected to spiritually, but she was also made to build families. Watch this. Genesis 30:1 says this, and when Rachel saw that she bare Jacob no children, Rachel envied her sister and said unto Jacob, give me children, or else I'll die. And Jacob's anger was kindled against Rachel, and he said, am I God? Who hath withheld from thee the fruit of thy womb? Am I him? Do I have the ability to do that? Verse 3, and she said, behold, my maid Bilhah. He said, go into her, and she shall bear upon my knee, that I may also have children by her. Verse 4. And she gave him Bilhah, her handmaid, to wife, and Jacob went into her. Verse 5, and Bilhah conceived and bare Jacob a son. And so in the text here, in this text, is very interesting because when you look at this word build, is found in verse 3, where it says, and she said, behold, my maid Bilhah, go into her, and she shall bear upon my knee, that I may also have children, that I may also, the word have children is the same word as build, it's bana. In other words, Bilhah was going to build Jacob a family. And let me tell you women, let me tell you guys, I understand that pursuing a career is a good thing, but there's nothing like the feeling. There's nothing like, in my opinion, I'm not a woman, but biblically speaking, there's nothing like the feeling of having a child and having that child look up to you and say to you, mama, or say the first words to you. Listen, I don't care what kind of promotion you get. I don't care what kind of stocks and investments you get in a company. Listen, there's nothing like the feeling of being a mother and having your child look up to you and love you unconditionally because you were built that way. Now, does that mean you cannot pursue a career? No. What that means, I'm simply saying that you were built to build families. You were made to build families because there is a joy that comes from a woman being pregnant and having children that love her, and that you were created in that way, simply put. And so this is why it's important. This is why you got to understand your authority, because of how the Lord has made you. But then he says this in verse 22 of Genesis. We're back in chapter 2, because it says in verse 22, it says, he a woman, but then it says he brought her to the man. Here's another thing, ladies, with your authority. And gentlemen, you gotta understand this too if you're single. When it says when Yah brought Eve to Adam, that word brought is in the Hifil. And in the Hifil means it's a causative action. In other words, when it says he brought her to Adam, in other words, it's saying that he caused her to go to Adam. He watch this, and this word brought It's very interesting. It means to cause, to bring in, to cause to come in, to gather, to cause to come, to bring them near, to bring, to be caused to be brought near to this man. In other words, Yah caused Eve to come so near to Adam that he was able to see her as being completely different from any of Yah's creation. In other words, there was a uniqueness, a special connection that Adam had with Eve that he did not have with any of Yah's creation. And this part is powerful because many women, instead of allowing the Lord to bring you near to a godly man, many women are on the problem. And I'm not saying you are, but when you have such a desire to be with an individual or to be with a man, that you're not focused on the right things. I'm gonna say that again. When your desire to be with a man it outweighs anything in your life, that's all you can talk about, that's your whole goal, your focus is on the wrong thing. Your focus should be on building that spiritual part of you that will cause Adam to be able to see you as completely different and special. See, you should not get into a marriage if you are not spiritually mature. Oh my goodness. Especially if that man is spiritually immature. Come on and go with me here, somebody. You should not get into any kind of connection with someone, especially if you're attracted, if they're not spiritually mature. And Eve was spiritually mature. She was willing to be taught by Adam. And here's the issue. Here's the issue. Eve was designed to be connected to spiritually. But if you're not working on your spiritual growth, your spiritual development, then you are not preparing yourself to be with a man of Yah. So in other words, when Eve was brought to Adam, she was ready to listen. She was ready to follow the instructions. She was ready to learn the instructions, follow the instructions, but she didn't. But she was ready. And so the question that I want to know is, if you are a woman and you want the authority, the kind of authority that the scriptures say you should have is found in your spiritual development. Why? Because you are the Ezer, who is there to think deeply, who is there to pray deeply, who is there to assist the husband in following the instructions of Yah. And if you're not spiritually mature, you can't be the Ezer. Yeah. See, your girlfriends that want to go out and party, your girlfriends that want to go out to the club, your girlfriends that want to have, what is it, a Tupperware party, and there's no spiritual development going on in any of your friends' relationships, let me say something to you. You are in the wrong environment if you want a husband, a godly man. Yeah. Oh, I know it's tight, but it's right. Yeah. If everything your friends do is it has nothing to do with developing you spiritually, you're not ready for a husband. And so I want you to think about your friendships. I want you to think about those girls. I want you to think about those women that you are so beholden to and committed to. And I want you to say this: if you desire to be married, then you should change your friends. Yeah. Oh, I know this is hard to swallow, but you got to understand that you were not created to just party and have a good time. You were created to be the spiritual backbone in a relationship when the husband is in distress, when the husband is being attacked, when the family is being attacked. You are the spiritual backbone that is following, that is aiding and assisting the husband to follow the instructions of Yah. Yeah, that's the kind of authority you have. He says this, look at this. So watch this. Not only were you made and built differently to be connected to spiritually, not only do you have to mature yourself so that you could be brought to a godly man, but watch this. You were also made in the image and the likeness. Genesis 1:26. Genesis 1:26 says this, and God said, let us make man in our image after our likeness, and let them have, watch this, see, here's your authority, and let them have together have dominion over the rest of creation. See, this is the powerful thing that a lot of men miss, because they are to have dominion together with their wives over the rest of creation. In other words, they are supposed to be a couple that are walking in the dominion that Yah has given them. Now, can I share with you the biggest blunder that we've made? Now, you know what image and likeness is. Image simply means you're a representative of Yah. And then likeness means you're to walk in the like manner as Yah. In other words, the image is you are to represent him. Likeness is you are to walk like he walks. I think Yeshua said it best. He said, let thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Yeah. And so the biggest blunder, though, the biggest biblical blunder is this. I want you to look in Genesis 1:26 through 28. And when he talks about that they have dominion, so let me just read it. So God created mankind in his own image, and in the image of God, he created them, male and female, he created them. God blessed them and said to them, be fruitful and increase in number, be fruitful and multiply. Then he says, fill the earth, and then he says, subdue it. In other words, he says, rule over the fish of the sea, the birds in the air, and over every living creature that moves on the ground. But this is the blunder that we make. Go to Genesis 3:16. I want to show you guys something. And this is going to be powerful. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to get to all of it today. Genesis 3:16, because here's the blunder. Genesis 3:16 says this, to the woman, he said, I will make your pains in childbearing very severe. With painful labor, you will give birth to children. Some of you women know that. But then he says, your desire will be for your husband. But then he uses this same word in English. And he will rule over you. But then if you go back to Genesis 1:26, it says, let us make man in our image and our likeness so that they may rule over the fish of the sea and the rest of his creation. But then he comes back and uses this same word in 3:16 when he talks about the husband ruling over the wife. Now, let me say this. The kind of authority that a man is going to have over a woman, when he talks about he's going to rule over you, when he's talking about that, he's talking about a man that has found himself in a sinful situation. In other words, this man is not saved. The man that is going to rule over you, and I'm going to show you exactly. This is the kind of authority that a man will have without Yeshua. And some of you know that. Some of you have been married to unbelieving men. Some of you have been married to men who don't follow the instructions. And he ruled over you, didn't he? And this is the kind of individual. See, this word here in Genesis 3:16 is the same word in 126. This word rule over in the Hebrew is yimshal. Yimshal in the Hebrew is found in Genesis 4:7. When you remember when Cain and Abel, when they presented their offering, Abel presented a better offering, and Cain did not. And Cain was wroth. He was angry. And Genesis 4:7 says this: if thou doest well, shalt thou not be accepted? And if thou doest not well, he says, sin lieth at the door. But then he says this: and unto thee shall be his desire. Same phrasing as Genesis 3:16. Then it says, and unto thee shall be his desire, and thou shalt rule over him. Now, can someone tell me what that text is saying in Genesis 4:7? Does anyone remember that historical narrative with Cain presenting his offering and the Lord didn't accept it? Does anyone remember that narrative where he says, and unto thee shall be his desire, and thou shalt rule over him? What was that referring to? What's going to rule over him? Or who's going to be doing the ruling? Or what's going to be doing the ruling? Okay. All right. Hasatan. Oh, yes. Anyone else? Anyone else have any ideas of when he says his desire is going to be for you, but are your desires going to, what does he say? Hold on. He says, and unto thee shall be his desire, and thou shalt rule over him. What's he talking about? What's he getting at right there? Sister Devonna said Hasatan is going to rule over him. In other words, like Sister Devon said, Satan is going to rule over him, but he's saying specifically sin is going to rule over him. Sin is going to be his master, his unfair master that's going to beat him down to the ground. And this is exactly how he's saying in Genesis 3:16, where he says that you're going to, wives, your desire is going to be for your husband, but he's going to rule over you with an iron fist. Why? Because he doesn't have Christ. He is in a state of sin. And so watch this. I want to show you this word because it's very interesting. Because people think that the original submission that Eve had to Adam, it was under this tyrannical rule, the word yimshal. And so let me share my screen because I want to show you, I want you guys to see this difference. And so give me a second while I share my screen. You guys need to see this. And I want to show you. All right. And so this word yimshal, right here is 49:10. It's used in Genesis 4:7 with Cain, where he says, sin shall rule over you. It's going to beat you down. It's going to be powerful over you. It's going to master you. Now we need to look up this word. Let's look, because I didn't define it right here. Let's look it up. This is in Genesis 4 and 7. And I want you guys to see this. And I left this, I didn't look it up on purpose. I left it blank because I want to show you Ying Shaw. Now, you may be thinking, did I lose anyone? Why is he talking about this? Because we're talking about the relationship between a husband and wife, how it can go bad if he is not a follower of the instructions of Yah. And I want to show you the difference between how husband and wife are to rule over creation. It's different from submission and headship. I want to show you this and how the husband has spiritual authority. Okay. Okay. See this word? Team Shal. All right. 4910, same word. Wait, let me go back because I need to find out. See, this is what we need to find out. It's in the call imperfect. Okay. So that's going to guide me to, so I can't use the Hifil. It's not in the Hifil. Okay. But it's in the call to rule, to have dominion. Now, I want to show you this. It is not a kind ruling. Sin does not have a generous, benevolent ruling over us. It is a ruthless master. And I'm going to show you this word also in the Greek, where it appears in the Greek as well. But let me go through the Hebrew first. In the Hebrew, in Psalms 8 and 6, I want you guys to see this as well. I want you to see this context about, again, we're dealing with this idea of being ruled over. Okay. The text says that your desire, wives, is going to be for your husband. He's good, but he's going to rule over you. I'm going to show you this difference. Okay. And so in Psalms, let's see. What is man that thou art mindful of him, and the son of man that thou visiteth him? For thou hast made him a little lower than the angels, and hast crowned him with glory and honor. Thou madest him to have dominion over the work of thine hands, okay, and put all things under his feet. Remember, he said to Adam and Eve, I'm going to make you to have authority, and you're going to rule over all of his creation. He's repeating it like he's repeating it here. And this is why he says, and all and all sheep and oxen, yea, the beasts of the field, the fowl of the air, and the fish of the sea, whosoever passeth through the paths of the sea. O Lord, how excellent is thy name in all the earth. So he's saying you're going to be ruling over the same authority that you have over the animals. See, hear me clear. In other words, a husband that does not follow the instructions of Yah, wives, if you desire his authority, he's going to rule over you like you're not even human. He's going to treat you like you're not even human. He's going to rule over you with an iron fist and treat you worse than he treats animals. Are y'all with me? And in the Septuagint, the same word in the Hebrew, in the Septuagint, that means in the Greek, Tanakh, this word rule over is kuriise. Kuriise, it's G29:6. It's the same exact word. And this word is found in Romans 6 and 9, where it says, knowing that Christ, being raised from the dead, dieth no more. Death hath no more dominion over him. Again, it's the same word, that death was a brutal master. It did not discriminate. It ruled over with an iron fist until Yeshua HaMashiach. Hallelujah. Not only did he conquer hell, but he conquered death and the grave. And so now death does not have rule over us anymore. And so before the dying of Yeshua, before he was crucified, death was a brutal master that was not kind at all. And then in Romans 6 and 4, he uses the same word. For sin, it says here again, for sin shall have dominion over you, for you are not under he says, under the law, but under grace. And so he's saying here that the penalty of sin, it ruled over us. It made us bow down to it. It treated us unkind because we were his slave. As a matter of fact, this is exactly what this word means in the Hebrew and in the Greek. It is to be ruled over like you are a slave. You are treated with no rights. If you desire his position, he's going to rule over you like you are a slave. And even in Luke 22, it uses the same word. He says this, and he said unto them, the kings of the Gentiles, they exercise, but he says lordship over, it's the same word though. G 2961. They exercise, the Gentiles exercise lordship over them. Over who? Whom the people they rule. And they that exercise authority upon them are called benefactors. He's saying here that the Gentiles, they rule over their own people like they're slaves. And we can see that throughout history. And the Lord is saying the same thing, that if you are a woman and you desire his position, his authority, and he is not a believer, he's going to rule over you like you are a slave. And then he comes back in Mark 10, 38 through 42. Let's turn there. Mark 10, and I want you to see this context. Again, we're talking about the woman or the mother's authority. However, we have to look at what will happen to your authority if you desire authority that doesn't belong to you. Especially with a man who is an unbeliever. It says this, but Yeshua said unto them, you know not what you ask. Can you drink? Oh, let me go back because you need to see what his disciples asked for. 35. And James and John, the sons of Zebedee, came unto him, saying, Master, we desire that thou shouldest do for us whatever we shall desire. And he said, Yeshua said unto them, what would you have me to do for you? They said unto him, grant unto us that we should sit one on your right and one on your left in your glory. But Yeshua said unto them, you don't even know what you're asking for. He says, can you drink of the cup that I'm about to drink from and be baptized with the baptism that I am baptized with? In other words, he's saying, if you want to sit where I am, then you're going to have to go through what I go through. You're going to have to deal. In other words, you haven't been given that purpose. You haven't been baptized into what I've been baptized in. Then verse 39, and he says, and they said unto him, we can. And Jesus said unto them, ye shall indeed drink of the cup that I drink of, and with the baptism that I am baptized withal, shall ye be baptized. But to sit on my right and on my left is not mine to give, but it shall be given to them for whom it is prepared. 41. And when the 10 heard it, they began to be much displeased with James and John. But Yeshua said unto them, but Yeshua called them to him and said unto them, ye know that they which are accounted to rule over the Gentile exercise, watch this, he says it again, lordship over them. He treats them like a slave. He's a brutal master. And their great ones exercise authority upon them. Do you see that? He's saying, listen, you're not a Gentile. This is a very great argument against the fact that we are Gentiles. He's saying, no, you are not a Gentile. You are not to rule over, watch this, your wife like the Gentiles do. Why? Because they have the nishma. They've been built to be connected with spiritually. They're in the image and the likeness. They represent Yah and they walk like Yah. But then watch this. This word also in the Greek, it's a different word in the Greek here. I want to show you another word about rule. very interesting. In Romans chapter 15, I want to show you this too, because this is going to get a little bit deeper into the authority that Yah has given women. But if they desire the husband's authority, watch this. Wherefore receive ye one another, as in Christ also receive us, to the glory of God. Now I say that Jesus Christ, or Yeshua HaMashiach, was a minister of the circumcision for the truth of Yah, to confirm the promise made unto their fathers. And that, watch this, I love this, and that the Gentiles might glorify God for his mercy. Remember the Egyptians we read about, where the Lord showed all his miracles, and it was for the Gentiles, those Egyptians, to see. And a mixed multitude came out of Egypt. Why? Because those Gentiles saw the glory of Yah. Then he says, for this cause, for as it is written, for this cause, I will confess to thee among the Gentiles and sing unto thy name. And again, he said, rejoice, ye Gentiles, with his people. And again, praise the Lord, all ye Gentiles, and laud him, all ye people. And then he says, and again, Isaiah saith, there shall be a root of Jesse. Here it is. There shall be a root of Jesse, and he shall, watch this, he that shall rise to reign, here it is, to reign over the Gentiles. In him shall the Gentiles trust. And so this is very interesting, because he's saying here that the David, who the root of Jesse, hold on, let me make sure I'm, the root of Jesse is not David, but it was Yeshua himself. And he's going to have the authority over the Gentiles. But I do want to say this, guys, as we get back to this text. Women and wives, they're not animals. We are not to have dominion over them like we're called to have dominion over the animals. And this is very important because of all the things we said that women were built. They were built in such a way that we are to treat them in a special way. Besides that, Leviticus 26 says this, and again, he uses the same word, dominion. He says this in 26:17. He says, and I will set my face against you, and you shall be slain before your enemies. They that hate you shall rule over you, and you shall flee when none pursueth. And so this is very, very important when we look at when you have this authority over a woman and you use it in a way that is not designed for the wife, for a woman. This text says, the ones that hate you are going to use this kind of authority over you. Those are not the ones that love you. Those are not the ones that are connecting to you as a woman have been designed, as a woman that has been designed to be connected with. And so when we talk about a woman's authority, number one, she deserves the kind of respect and decency that goes far beyond how we treat animals. Listen, men have abused, and I don't have to tell you, men, we've done all these different things to women that shows them that we hate them, that shows them that we don't treat them like God has designed them to be treated. And so the authority of a woman, women, you cannot submit your authority to a man who does not know Yeshua. And if that man knows Yeshua, and this is where I'm going to go back to Ruth, if that man does know Yeshua, if that man is walking in the Torah, man, following the instructions, the authority as he's given you as a wife, part of that authority is not just to be the Ezer to spiritually support following the instructions, but also, he says here in Ruth 4, where Ruth told Naomi that I'll do whatever he tells me to do when it comes to following the instructions, because she understood that she was not submitting to Boaz, her authority, but she was submitting her authority to Yah by saying, I will do exactly what the instructions that are coming from my husband, that are based in the Torah, I will do exactly those instructions. And we've got to understand that a woman's authority is not to be trampled over. No. She's got to have an environment where the husband has to be following the Torah so that she can trust and be able to say, all that he saith, I'll do it. Now, I'm not done with woman's authority, because we've barely scratched the surface of what an Ezer is. I've only given you two aspects of what the Ezer is. I've only given you two. And I've also presented in this blunder that we cannot confuse the authority that we have over creation with the authority that we have as husbands. That's the big blunder. That the authority that we have of creation is only for dominating what Yah has created. It's not to dominate the wife. And so I'm going to give you the next part next week, on Tuesday actually, of, well, what is this authority that the woman has, and how should this authority be responded to by her husband? And so we're going to definitely go deeper into the Ezer to show, there is a place in scripture where it shows that this spiritual warfare that the wife is to engage in with her husband. And so that's the part we're going to look at this coming Tuesday. And so today we just wanted to look at how was a woman created? What was she created, and how was she created to be connected to as the Ezer? And so we looked at that, and I hope that this was enriching for you to see this woman's authority, the mother or the wife's authority. And again, all of this is from 1 Timothy 12. And we didn't even read that today, but I do want to just, as we close, I want us to see how this verse is tied into everything we've shared today. So I'm going to close with verse 12. He says this, verse number 12. Now, this is going to help us to understand a little bit more. But I suffer not a woman to teach, nor to usurp the authority over the man, but to be in silence. And so this usurping of the authority is not how Yah has designed the woman to. No, he has not designed you to usurp the authority. And we talked about what usurping the authority meant a few weeks ago. It is to act independently. Remember, we talked about anarchy. We talked about anarchy against his instructions. That's what usurping the authority of a man is. And so we said, no, you're not to usurp the authority over a man. And then we talked about what silence, to be in silence and not to teach. We talked about those things. But I do want to just close out by saying, if you feel as a woman that by submitting to your husband is a scary thing, it is scary. Because the reason why it's scary is because you may be unsure about your husband. Yeah. Yeah, that's why it's scary, because you may be unsure. Is my husband going to take this authority and abuse it? Is he going to abuse the authority that Yah has given him? That's why it's scary. But if you don't believe that he's going to abuse the authority, then it should be a blessing to you. If you believe he's going to abuse the authority, yes, it is scary. And this is why many marriages suffer. This is why many marriages do not reach the plan and the goal that Yah has brought each partner together for. And husbands, we can't constantly talk about and question. We got to constantly create an environment where we are showing our wives, where we're showing our families that we're walking in the Torah, that we're living the Torah. We've got to, instead of talking about, we've got to put action and show and demonstrate that this is what walking in the Torah means. This is what loving a wife is. This is what being a servant to your wife is. And who couldn't? What woman would not want to say, Lord, thank you for sending me a husband that loves you first, a husband that walks in what you say. And so your authority as a woman is secure. And next time, we're going to actually deal with not just who you are and how you were created, but now we're going to deal with, how do you use your authority? How is the authority supposed to be used? Do I use my authority? And women, you have authority. Do I use it over my husband? How am I supposed to use this authority that he's given me? And that's exactly what we're going to deal with next week. And we're going to see the action behind the authority. What are the actions? What are the biblical ways in which the Lord has given you the authority? How should that look? How should that look with your husband? How should that look with your children? And how should that look outside of the home? And also, and outside the home is not just considering your work, your employment, but is considering primarily in a public congregational setting. Blessings. Blessings, everyone. Hey.
Blessing, blessing.
Blessings, y'all. Oh, yes.
Hey, I just wanted to say, man, awesome lesson, brother. Especially when you're dealing with that authority. No, you're dealing with that dominion.
Yeah. Yeah. I had that confused before, man. I had it confused when I was a young believer, that I thought and believed that my wife was just supposed to do what I said. That's what submission is. Submission is when a wife follows the instructions of Yah that come from the husband. Yeah.
Blessing, brother.
What I was saying earlier, you guys got knocked off. I was saying when I was a young believer, I used to believe that a wife was supposed to follow my everything I said and do everything I said. And, the Lord had to show me, no, she's following my instructions that are coming through you. And so that's a huge difference. And so she's not really following you or me as a husband, but she's following the instructions of Yah. So Yes, oh yes. Yes, oh yes. I hope you were blessed. I hope you got something out of. I hope you were able to glean something from this lesson that was relevant to you, that made you feel, that made your spirit desire, made the ruach in you want to say, Lord, thank you. I trust you. I believe you. Yeah.
Hey, blessings, brother. I was gonna say that in regards to what you were saying about the dominion, because you made it clear that how could we have the woman rule? How could we rule over the woman, like everything in creation, like everything he created, bara, versus when she was built. It was built. So I like how you make that distinction.
That bana, yeah.
Yeah, bana. Sorry, yeah, that bana, and then I was also as another verse that supports in the Rehoboth when you in Ephesians chapter 5, verse 28. About, he says, husbands, love your wives as you love yourselves. Verse 29, for what no one hated his own flesh. So it's like, so then you take that and say, okay, so would you treat yourself harshly? Would you try to rule over? You wouldn't do that to yourself. So you just like, so the agape love you would show her. It's like you have to show yourself, it's like the way you will love yourself. So I mean, you couldn't treat yourself any less. Don't treat her any less in love how you as much as you will love yourself and treat yourself, you have to love her. So basically they give us a rule of thumb on how we should be. So there's no way you could have dominion over her.
And a lot of times here's a problem, man, in everyone. Sometimes we as husbands, we focus on, my wife is not submitting to me. Why won't she submit? That's the wrong focus. The focus should be on, am I creating the right atmosphere for her to submit? Does she even feel safe to submit? That should be the focus. And it's not. And so, I got Kanko myself. Yep. Blessings, everyone. Blessings, man. And again, we will be at 710 Haight on the 1st.
Blessings.
Shabbat in February. And I'm looking forward to seeing everyone there. I've been taking COVID tests. I took one last week. I'm going to take one this coming week. Yep. We want to make sure we're all safe. And I'm looking forward to hearing that song again. I want to hear that song again, man. All right. Blessings, everyone. Blessings. Have a beautiful day. Rest of your Shabbat. It's a beautiful day outside, isn't it? Beautiful day to spend time with family, to enjoy each other. All right. Blessings, you guys.
Yes, blessing.
Don't forget to give. I know we're not at the congregation, but remember to cheerfully give continuously to support the work of ministry. I usually don't talk about, but I just want to remind us, because we haven't been at the congregation. But we thank the Lord that man, it's a blessing to just have everything we need, man. Blessings. We're not stressed and overpaying the bills, and man, it's a blessing. All right.
Hello?
Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom, man.
Hello?
Shabbat shalom, baby. Hey, Sister Elaine.
Yeah. I get off town for a walk, and my son came through and he took me my cousin daughter, that's my second cousin,
Mm-hmm.
shot his mother and then he killed himself. So
Oh,
yeah, that just happened. So he came through and told me about that. Did I hear about it? And I ain't heard nothing about it. I've been on the church line. Yeah.
oh
So
my goodness. Man.
that's the news we got right there. She had a second cousin and her son. Her son was like mental like. There's something wrong with him. Yeah. So she in the hospital, but he killed himself. He dead though. But she in the hospital. So yeah.
Oh my goodness, man.
All right then. Say good night to you.
We'll be praying. We'll be praying, man.
Blessings to you, Sister Elaine.
Blessings. Good night.
Blessings.
Blessings.